All right. Well, I'm Megan from iRunFar, and I'm here with Ian Sharman. How's it going, buddy?
Very good to be here. Thank you.
Well, hello. Well, we're here in Mill Valley, California. It's a couple days before the North Face Endurance Challenge 50-mile championship. That's in a couple days, but you probably won't see this video until after this race is said and done and Ian is tucked back home in bed. But it's kind of a stormy night outside. We're here inside of the building, but outside it's blowing hard, and they say the Pineapple Express is moving fast off the coast. So, not that I'm a Californiaite, but welcome to California.
Thank you. Well, I was for a year, but now it's Oregon for me. And this is why, because look how bad the weather is here.
Well, some might argue that like you're a Brit and you bring the weather wherever you go.
Some might argue that. I seem to have done it at Rocky Raccoon, really bad weather. Zagama Marathon, horrific weather. Western States. Several races this year that I've turned up at have tended to be quite bad, yeah.
But you were just at JFK a couple weekends ago, and it was fair skies all day long.
Pretty much perfect conditions there, yeah. Yeah, I mean, not really windy, bit cold, but that's fine for running.
Are you sure you were actually there?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
No, congratulations on your JFK a couple weekends
ago. Thank you. Yeah.
How's your body feeling? Are you bouncing back?
2 weeks is kind of a short amount of time to recover from a 50-miler, and I'm sure people are maybe giggling as they listen to that, because that sounds maybe even more obscene than it is, but it is possible, I mean, to run well, I think, with 2-week gaps. I find that if I do back-to-back weekends, that's what really wears me down. Or if I do 100-milers and then stuff close together. But I think 2 50-milers with 2 to 3 weeks is just about long enough for me to be able to do them both well.
So it sounds like a sweet little package, like my two 50-milers with a couple weeks in between. But what does that actually mean for you? Like, you do this race, how do you recover your body?
Well, the first couple of days, not a whole lot.
Okay.
And it's judging from that how much I can do in those 2 weeks. So if after JFK, because it's flatter, it doesn't really hammer the legs as much as this race will, because this is going to have 10,000 feet or whatever descent, so I guarantee I'll hurt more after this race.
Okay.
But if it's flatter, it doesn't cause as much damage, and therefore you recover a little bit quicker. And by doing a lot of races, and I've done years now of lots of races fairly close together, that tends to mean the recovery is a little bit quicker. So I didn't feel too bad a couple of days later, so I've been able to get in a few hard training runs since then. And now it's taped already because it's so short.
Yeah. So we're trying a little bit of a different format with this interview. This isn't a pre-race interview, though we talked briefly about racing. This isn't a post-race interview. This is kind of a sit-down, profile, Ian Sharman, get to know you kind of. And I have to be honest with you, the reason why I picked you was because you're from the UK and you have a brilliant British accent. So if you could just talk, that would be great.
I sometimes am asked to do this, although everyone seems to think I'm Australian. Really? One of my coaching clients, actually, he'd signed up, and at the end of the first call we had, he said, "So what part of Australia are you from?" To an Australian, any Australians listening to this, there's no way in hell that they could think that I'm Aussie. But Americans do.
Right, well, I apologize on behalf of geographically and linguistically challenged folks.
I can see there are some similarities, but yeah.
Well, you have an interesting geographic history. You began life on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean and moved your way around the US before you ended up where you are now in Bend. Tell us about that.
Basically, I lived in the UK for my first 29 years.
Okay.
I was in London for quite a lot of that, and that's when I started running about 7 years ago.
Okay.
And then I fell in love with an American girl on the West Coast, so I kept doing trips over to Oregon to see her in Bend.
Okay.
And in 2009 moved over. Then when I got a transfer through the same company that I was working for, we moved down to San Francisco in that area.
Okay.
And then after a year of that, I got my green card, and I didn't like that job, so we moved back up to Bend.
Okay.
So I live in the Bay Area, which is just perfect for trail running, because there's pretty much an ultra every weekend.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit too tempting for me, because it means that I probably will do an ultra every weekend.
That really fed your running.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Now, about this girl that you met in the US, your wife's name is Amy.
Yeah.
Tell us about her and life in Bend with her.
Well, Amy is not a runner. That's always the first question people ask me. In fact, she hates running.
She hates running.
She really doesn't enjoy it. She does a little bit, but she gets no enjoyment out of it.
Okay.
She kind of enjoys it if I have like a Western States type of day where that can be kind of fun for her, but
so
in general, not so
spectating
much.
Is okay?
Can be. I have to be careful with that. Yeah, I can't make too many trips be spectating marathons or ultras, or she gets annoyed.
Or it doesn't become a vacation anymore.
It is for me, but somehow not for her. Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, I've taken the Rome Marathon, Paris Marathon, New York Marathon, Honolulu Marathon.
Oh.
And yet she still complains.
Amy! No, we're just teasing you. You're dinks, the two of you. You're double income, no kids.
It's a phrase I haven't heard of before, yes. Yeah.
But you do have kids.
Well, Amy certainly thinks of it as we have kids, and that's 2 chihuahuas.
2 chihuahuas.
Yeah.
Which are like little footballs that squirm.
They're about this size and they bark at everyone apart from us. Sometimes at us, jump on my face to wake me up, that kind of thing. But whenever our parents ask when we're going to have grandkids, Amy's answer is always, we already have kids, what are you talking about?
Okay.
So yeah, there's no, I think in the near future, or the foreseeable future, it'll be the same. There won't be any kids.
So tell us a little bit more about these dogs. Their names are...
Well,
because
you can probably guess which one.
Like if you follow Ian on Twitter or if you are friends with him on Facebook, like you see the dogs. They're
on there. They are cute in photos. There's no doubt about that. There's one that Amy named and one that I named.
Okay.
Let's see if you can guess which. There's Poco Loco. And Comrades.
And Comrades. I'm gonna go with you. Named Comrades.
I named one after my favourite race, and she named the other one Little Crazy.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So they've been a part of your life for how long?
4 years now, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 years or so, yeah. She'll probably correct me, it's actually 3, but it's about 4.
Have you had them since they were even
Yeah, so they're little mates. Yeah.
Okay. They're brother and sister. No,
brother and brother.
Brother and brother.
Yeah.
Do they ever go out running with you?
Not even slightly. No, they run circles around me, and they're very good at that, and they can corner ridiculously well. But if I went on, even when we've got like a hill that's a mile to the top and a mile down, we've occasionally walked them up that, but we usually end up carrying them for most of it.
Okay.
They're not running dogs.
They walk for a little while and then they start petering out. And,
yeah, exactly.
I think your dogs should meet Justin Mock's dogs.
Okay.
I don't know if you know.
I know the name, but what type of dogs does he have then?
He has, I believe, oh Justin, you're going to kill me. He has 2 small, lovely, puntable dogs.
Puntable? That doesn't sound like a good
Little
idea.
squirmy footballs are puntable. No, but I think they're terrier based, so...
Well, my dogs and his dogs would definitely have a good fight, because that's all they'd want to do. They wouldn't get on at all.
But these dogs ran pretty fast, tricky trot, 5K. I'm forgetting the time at this point, but they actually came in second in the race. So.
That's not bad. Well, I'm actually running at the weekend with Steph Howe, another North Face runner who lives in Bend, and she's got a dog who, I think 2.5 years old or something. That dog is the fittest dog I've ever seen in the world. I mean, we go on they've gone on runs that are 40 miles long, the dog goes with them.
The dog goes.
We go on like a 20-mile run, and the dog will do 40 miles of sprinting, just in circles, and zoom off, come back, and, you know, going up a nice steep hill, and we're crawling up it, the dog just zooms off into the distance and comes back, and non-stop, full effort. So they've got a fit dog. They should enter it in races, because they would win. Yeah.
I've been learning about Joss Naylor lately, who's
the fell running.
The fell running fella from your original neck of the woods, and he always takes border collies and took border collies with him on his adventures, like huge, epic, 60 milers.
It amazes me the dogs can go that far.
Yeah.
I mean, they're obviously very fit. I know huskies, for example, do really long runs, but chihuahuas don't. No, not at all.
So your dogs don't run much, your wife doesn't run much, but you run much.
I do, so that kind of is good for me. Plus Bend's a great place for that because there's so many fast runners, and it's kind of annoying that even when I go to other parts of the country, like the East Coast, I still can't even be the first guy from Bend because Max King wins.
Like 2 weekends ago at JFK.
And a month before that at
UROC, yeah. Where you were the second Bendite.
Second Bendite in both of those. Yeah.
So what are your chances of being the first Bendite at the TNF 50 this weekend?
Well, we've got at least a few of them. I mean, Cami Semick is living in Hong Kong now, but she's from Bend.
Yeah.
We've got Steph Howe is going to be there.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend Zach Violet is also going to be running this.
Okay.
He's beaten me a couple of times in shorter distance races this year,
Okay.
so it's not easy. No matter what race you go to in the whole world, pretty much. There's going to be someone fast from Bend there.
From Bend,
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about your running rather than other people's
Sure.
other fast Bendites running. You left what I understand was a fairly lucrative career in finance.
Yeah, it was called economic consulting, which is
Okay.
basically economics with some accounting and corporate finance type stuff. And
Okay.
it was fairly interesting, but not as interesting as running, so I stopped doing it.
So in what year did you pursue making your money off of the business of running full time?
Last year,
Last
basically,
year.
2011.
Okay.
Because until then, for one thing, I had to get my green card,
Okay.
and they don't give that to run bums. You kind of
Yeah,
have to have a proper job for that, yeah. So I waited till I had the green card and then thought, I'm not enjoying this job enough. And at some point I'm going to have to switch over to something that I really am passionate about.
Okay.
And I was having people ask me about coaching, so I started doing that kind of, not really for money or anything, just to try and get the hang of it and because people were asking.
Okay.
And then realised that it seemed to go very well and that all the different types of races I've done all over the world, the road stuff, the mountain stuff, the deserts, the jungles, all of that, had given me a really good background of understanding what it takes to train for different things and what things to avoid in particular, and then through trial and error as well as stuff that I've read, learning how to kind of optimize the training for different things.
So there's a lot of people right now who are either have a fascination in or who are trying to pursue making a life out of running.
Yeah.
How do you pay your bills? Like
what's
life for you?
The first rule is you can't have kids.
Okay.
And you probably can't have a mortgage. Probably can't have a mortgage either.
Okay. Must be a renter.
And you've got to have some savings.
Okay.
Because you're taking a risk.
There's going to be some downtime.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, there's not much prize money in ultra running. This is an exception, but still, there's going to be, from the men's side, $14,000 walking away from this from first, second, and third. So that's not exactly a huge payday across 3 people, and then no one else gets anything.
Right.
So there's 50-odd guys who you could call semi-professional,
pretty fast
top-level fast guys, yeah. So they obviously aren't going to make much money from this in general. So I saw the coaching as a potential way to make money there and to do something that I love. I mean, I love talking to runners about running and about training and races, and it just happened to be something that I think I can do really well and that I've got a lot of experience for. So it's a lot more interesting from my point of view, and the coaching clients seem to be liking it, and I'm actually getting a little bit swamped almost by how many there are now.
Too many.
Not quite too many, but it's
enough.
It's got to the point where I'm really busy with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So lay out a typical day for us, because your running is still top priority. Your own running is still a top priority for you. So on a given day, what is running and coaching and life?
Well, the good thing is because I'm working for myself, I have flexibility.
Okay.
So rather than I have to be in an office from certain time to certain time, I can fit in the Skype calls I do and the phone calls I do and replying to emails whenever I want. So I'll know in advance what time I have particular calls, but emails can always wait till after a run. I mean, that's not as urgent. So I just fit in the runs whenever it's suitable.
Okay.
But it's nice that I can often pick, particularly in winter, a sunny time of day rather than having to do it all in the dark. Yeah, that's certainly nice. And I do use the treadmill a lot more in winter anyway, but I've got enough flexibility that I can do as little or as much as I want. But I quickly learned that having all this extra time, there's only so much my body will let me do anyway, and it's less than I thought.
So are you having more time to be able to focus on your own running? Are you spending more time on recovery then, or?
Probably a little bit more. I mean, I'm better at getting my massages. Well, the internet, even like Facebook and Twitter, is kind of marketing. So for most people, it's just playing around, but it is technically business work. I can justify it more. Yeah. So I do spend a fair amount of time doing that. But no, I can fit in running whenever I want, and I started doing probably too much when I first had the time. So at the beginning of 2011, I think I started running too much and racing too much. And that kind of destroyed the second half of the 2011 season for me. And so it's a case of trying to find that good balance. And I think I'm not the only one who has maybe switched to more of a full-time or part-time running career and then done too much and not immediately had the success they had when they had a full-time job.
Yeah, I actually was just sitting with another running bum at dinner who was talking about the same thing, you know, the challenges of how much is too much and when you need to pull back, and you know, there's only so many hours a day a person can run where
exactly, you've got to, recovery is at least as important as the actual running. Yeah. There's no benefit to just doing so much that your body isn't able to withstand that amount of training. So fitting in the recovery and making sure I rest enough, and that I get things like massage and I foam roll, and I do other gym work as well for kind of the core and strength and that type of thing. Yeah. So that becomes more of a priority, and I'm much better at doing that than I was when I first started, or first stopped doing the office job. And
first started going full-time being a run bum. Yeah. Now, let me ask you, your wife has a real job, real employment. What does she think about you being a run bum?
She liked the money that I was earning before. I think that's the nice way of putting it. But she's also very supportive, and she realises there's no point doing a job you don't enjoy. So she's very supportive of me, and without that I wouldn't have been able to do it. But she would rather, I think, that I had an office job with the pension and the security, but that I enjoyed. That would be her preference, but that doesn't seem to exist perfectly for me.
Does she also prefer the fact that, like, you're still a pretty clean-cut run bum? Like, we're seeing lots of beards and long hair. She complains I don't shave enough because I don't have to go into an office every day. But, yeah, I can't even shaven right now. I can't even grow a proper beard anyway. So there's no chance of me trying to become the proper mountain man grizzly look. Big long hair, long beard. I don't think it would suit me, and it would be kind of a patchy 12-year-old type beard. Did you think about a Movember mustache?
I did think about that, but again, she would have shot that one down fairly quickly, even if it was only 1 month a year.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about your approach to running and racing. Externally, when I look at you, you're among the more prolific racers.
I do more races than most, I think, and maybe more than I should as well. But
really?
Yeah, but it's difficult to say no because it's enjoyable, and that's the whole point of me doing this. Is if I didn't like it, I wouldn't do it. So it's very difficult to turn things down, like JFK. I was just talking to a load of people who were entered for JFK and who'd won it before and stuff like that when I did a run around Mount Hood in Oregon in October, I think that was. And they just got me thinking, and I thought, well, I can just go and do JFK if the race director will let me in. So I sent him an email, and that was my criteria. If he lets me in, I'll do it. If he doesn't, I won't. And that's 2 weeks before the North Face race, but that I deem to be enough of a gap to be able to run them both well. And it's the 50th year of a race only happens once, and that's kind of a iconic thing, so I thought I had to do that.
So JFK was an October add-in for you?
Yeah, I decided to do it about 3 weeks before.
Well, and it all turned out okay. I mean,
it did, yeah. Well, I'd been doing a bit more speed work, partly for this and partly just because I felt like I hadn't done enough speed work last year. So I felt like I had a bit more road speed, so it seemed like the perfect type of race to slot into anyway.
So you're a person who, it seems like you can get away with racing pretty frequently, like body-wise, time-wise, it's enjoyable for you, you aren't experiencing symptoms of burnout at this point.
But I have. Like last year I definitely had some of that. And even in the middle of this year, I just had a few weekends in a row of racing, and then at Waldo 100k had to drop out because I just had nothing in my legs. So it's always a fine line, but I'd rather turn up to something like Waldo and hope that suddenly it's going to feel a bit better than to not enter it and go, well, I'll just play it safe, and because it's such a beautiful course anyway, for anyone who doesn't know it. Beautiful Oregonian course, spectacular views of lakes and mountains, and it's only an hour and a half from home, so to not do it seemed kind of like a shame.
For other people who are watching this, I mean, do you, from experience of like going to that line of how much racing is too much or how much running is too much, then you know, crossing it and coming back, words of advice for somebody else who's not going through that?
I think it depends on whether you're aiming to win stuff or whether you're aiming to have fun. Because you'll see guys who, I think that's the guy who just did 2,600 milers this year. And he did his last one last weekend. That, you know, you're not going to win many of those if you do 26, no matter how good you are. Carl Meltzer's not winning 2,600 milers a year. But
Curl, is that a challenge?
I think that is a challenge, yeah. Let's see if you can do that. There's definitely a fine line between, and it'll be different for every individual. And if I was to get my absolute optimum at every race, I'd probably need to do a little bit less, I think. But not too much, because it is what motivates me, and most of my long runs, I'd rather do it as a race than a training one on my own.
Okay. So the Michael Wardian phenomenon is something that's referred to as like a habitual racer, super prolific racer, a person who
I very much look up to that. I mean, what he can do is amazing.
Yeah.
Way more than I can. He'll knock out 2 marathons quicker than I can do one. He'll do it in the same weekend. And that just blows my mind, and how quickly he can recover from stuff. So he'll do the week after week after week. And I think the injury he's got at the moment, or he's just recovering from at the moment, is only slightly related to that, because he does have superhuman recovery compared to other people. But I look at that and I think, yeah, there's no reason to set limits on yourself of how much you can race or what types of things to do. I love the fact that Mike will do bad water, so hot and long and roads, and he'll try Western States, and he was meant to do UTMB this year if he hadn't been injured, plus road marathons, 5Ks, you know, any kind of trail race. He'll do anything. Yeah. And most of the ultrarunners won't try everything. And so I really admire that fact that if it's a race, he wants to be there.
He stays diverse.
Yeah, I like diversity because I like running, not just mountain running and not just road running. I like having different styles of things, and if I had to cut one of them out, I think I wouldn't get bored necessarily with the other type, but I'd miss what I wasn't doing. So last year I only did a couple of, or the second half of last year, the first half of this year I didn't do many road marathons because I've done lots of them in recent years. Yeah. And now I was missing them, so I want to do a few more of them.
So you went back.
Yeah.
As I hear you talk, and as we've chatted before, it feels like you have a pretty analytical approach to your running.
Yeah, definitely. That would be the economist in me. Yeah. Spreadsheets and that kind of thing. Yeah.
So are you a mileage tracker?
I do track it, but I don't focus on making it as big as possible.
Okay.
So that would be a difference. I mean, some of the guys, the mileage they do would break me in about 2 weeks. I mean that. There's no way I could do it.
Are you a pace tracker?
I do use my watch to track the pace and the amount of climb I'm doing, and put that in the spreadsheet so I've got an idea. Well, upload it, but I do look through that to give myself an idea of how it's going. But
do you know how many races you've run?
Not off the top of my head, but if I looked in the spreadsheet,
you have a spreadsheet.
Yes.
And then do you have all of your finishing times documented?
Marathon and above. I don't care as much about the ones below that because I'm not really competitive at that. It's just speed work for the longer stuff. Okay. So it doesn't really appeal to me as much.
Can you fire off in your synapses all your PRs if you needed to?
I think I could do my PRs for every distance, yeah. It's only about 10 things to remember. The biggest number of things.
Do you remember all your routes, the routes you go do regularly? Do you remember that they're X.2 miles with 130?
Yeah, I mean when you've seen it a million times on the Garmin, you get to learn exactly how far it is. Yeah. So I know what most of the routes around me are, because there's about 2 or 3 that I'll do a lot. Okay. And then other stuff that's newer, particularly if I go into the mountains more, because I've not been in Oregon that long, so it's kind of all new to me.
New stuff.
Yeah, which is fun.
So what about the numbers? You said that certain things don't appeal to you, but what about looking at running through those numbers? What does appeal?
I like the idea of getting faster in a marathon, because I think that really helps with longer distance stuff as well. Okay. And I know that would be the opposite of what some of the pure mountain guys would say. You don't need to do tempo, you don't need to do speed work, you don't need to do roads at all, but most of the mountain runs where you do, Western States, which to the majority of runners, they're going to think it's a mountain run. I think of it as a mountain run. But there's a lot of fast running in it as well. So if you can get comfortable at that cruising, that's important. So I think a marathon is just a great, fast, tempo endurance run. And if you can get your body to be used to doing lots of those at almost 100%, then I think that's really helpful. So I do it because I like them and because I think it helps with the longer stuff.
So if somebody were to call you up and say, Ian, I'd like to be coached by you for my ultra marathons, is the expectation that you're going to make them run a 10K or a half marathon as training?
Depending on what they like. I like doing that, so I'll incorporate that. If they hate roads, and many people do, or they hate trails, there's even people like that as well, then I will not force them to do things they don't like. So I fit the training around their lifestyle. Like if they live in the middle of a city, I'm not going to be giving them a trail run every day.
Right.
But it depends on what races they're
Good luck finding a trail.
Well, exactly, but if they enter something like hard rock, they're going to have to find some trails, so that, you know, they're going to need to get that type of thing in there.
Yeah.
But from my point of view, it's trying to get them to get the most out of their runs and get the most benefit out of it as well as the most enjoyment.
So you can train with Ian and not necessarily have to run.
You don't have to run
road
a
runs.
marathon. No, most of them don't.
And you don't have to run one in a costume either?
I'm just thinking, have any of them done that? I think one of them might have.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about what might happen down in Texas at the beginning of next year. You're the holder of the fastest trail 100 miler on American soil. You ran 12:44?
Yeah, I could even tell you the seconds. I can't remember.
Okay, how many seconds?
33.
12:44.33. And this is now 2 years ago.
It will be then, yeah. That'll be
2 years ago
solid.
at Rocky.
Yeah.
Now there's chatter about a number of people going down there to push each other and chase after fast times and possibly your record. Maybe.
Good. I mean, it's more exciting when people are going for records and trying to see what's possible.
Yeah.
Because people went for the 13:16, which was the old record.
Yeah.
For a long time, no one got it. And then just this year, you've had Mike Morton and John Olsen go under 13:16 at different courses.
Yeah.
Plus my one from the year before. So it's showing that people are getting quicker. And I think part of it's the mental side of it as well. That like Roger Bannister, when he broke the 4-minute mile, it was a very small amount of time before someone else did it. Because that mental barrier had gone, that people thought it's possible, so their mind didn't hold them back. I think that's the same with the 13-hour trail 100 now, that people are not thinking it's some impossible target. There's plenty of guys out there thinking, I'm quick enough, I can do that. Yeah.
There is, I mean, last year was essentially like a raining bucket loads at Rocky.
Yeah, that definitely slowed it down. I mean, Hal's time was only a few minutes off the old course record, and that was fast, definitely in those conditions.
So the environmental conditions have to, those stars have to.
I think it usually is. I mean, even if it rains a bit, it's not usually as muddy as it was at 2012's Rocky Raccoon, because it rains very well, so it's fairly easy terrain still. Okay. It's just this time, literally, we're on the start line and there's thunder and lightning and pouring down. It had been doing that for a day or two, so the whole course was a mud bath, and then because it's loops, it gets churned up as well.
More and more.
Yeah.
You're not planning to go back, though?
No, I'm not going to be there.
Okay. And you have talked about conversations with you before that for you to achieve like equal to your record or better would. It just almost to you it seems insurmountable too? It
does sometimes. At the time it felt easy. I was like, oh, break that again next week. Now I can appreciate more that it was a good day and a lot of things came together.
Okay.
But I think I can replicate those things. So I'd say that I'm in a similar type of shape right now to what I was when I ran that. So I'm not going to do Rocky Raccoon, but I think I'm going to do the Indiana Trail 100. Where they put up a $25,000 prize for trying to break either my record, or if one of those guys goes quicker, it'll be trying to break their record.
The record.
Yeah.
Well, and the Indiana race is in
April.
April.
Yeah.
Okay. You are we talked about it before, but you're pretty diverse in your race selection.
Yeah.
Road races, short distance.
I've tried pretty much everything apart from pure kind of Arctic conditions. I've done races on snow. And Thai races, they're on snow, but I've never done one that's like a Arctic, completely below freezing the whole time type of race.
Like the last desert race.
Yeah, I've never gone to another continent that's made of ice yet. No. But it half appeals if you could take about 2 zeros off the price tag.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there, all this racing you've done and all the racing that's out there, is there a particular style or distance or course or terrain? Like what is, Ian Sharman had to decide, I'm going to make up my own best race, what would it be?
There'd be 2 answers to that. I think one would be for what I think I could do best, and another one for what I enjoy the most.
Okay.
I think that the kind of flat 100 is what suits me best, because I don't have the pace of Max King or Trent Briney, you know, the 2 guys who completely smoked it at JFK and just had so much pace. And by 50 miles that evens out a bit, but still they are, you know, Max is 18 minutes quicker than me in a marathon, Trent's 20 minutes quicker than me in a marathon. That's quite a lot of speed to try and catch up on. But at 100 miles, I feel like that's kind of I've got the efficiency to run that kind of well.
Okay.
So that would be my optimum type, so a Rocky Raccoon type of course, hopefully this Indiana Trail type of course.
Indiana Trail.
But in terms of the most fun, I'd say just the more exotic the better. Okay. And probably more mountainous the better. So one of the most fun ones, or the two most fun races I've ever done, are the Comrades Ultramarathon in South Africa, and that's road. And then the other end of the spectrum, the Transalpine stage race across the Alps from Germany to Italy, which is just beautiful and spectacular.
Partner race.
Partner race. Right. So completely different types of race there, but they're fun. Really fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
You seem to have a special relationship with Comrades, the South African race. You've named your dog after.
I have named my dog. So has one of the Russian twins who keep winning it all the time. Yeah. Their dog is called Comrades in Russian.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of dog is it?
I have no idea. I just heard that somewhere.
That's funny. For Americans who don't know too much about this race, what is the appeal? Why do you like it?
I kind of like the fact it's an ultra, but it has the elements of a marathon, but everything's better. Okay. It's the same kind of size, but with a much more friendly atmosphere. So in a typical road race, you go there, you don't talk to anyone, unless you know someone, and even they may not talk to you. I've had that. Teammates of mine who just won't talk to me when it's in the race. But in Comrades, everyone's talking. I met friends I've made friends during the race where I was running next to them for a few hours, stayed in touch years later. And it just, the whole atmosphere of it is just spectacular. Everyone gets really into it, all the spectators do. Just the atmosphere of the days before, days after, everything I absolutely love. Okay. And it's on a much bigger scale than any other ultra you could think of, because there's 20-odd thousand people running. Plus maybe, they estimate maybe 1 million people watching it. I think that's just a number they've made up, but it's a lot of people watching it along the way.
Yeah. Is it on a future race plan for you?
Oh yeah, I've done 5 of them, and I'd like to do as many as I can. Okay. But I didn't do it this year because I thought I'd give Western States a bit more focus, and Western States I can drive to, while Comrades is 47 hours of travel. It was easier from the UK than it is from the West Coast, so I thought that was one reason to skip it this year. And next year I'm going to do the Grand Slam, so that kind of takes up my whole summer, so I won't be doing it then either. Well, but after that, as much as I can.
You've pretty much answered my question of what's on your 2013 race plan.
That is pretty much my race plan, yeah.
Indiana, Trail 100, and the Grand Slam.
Well, I've got a couple of other things actually. I've got a...
of course you do, you're Ian Sharman.
a load of road marathons, obviously.
As training.
As training, yeah.
You're not doing them in costume anymore.
I will probably do 2 of them in costume, actually. Yeah. Okay. I did one this year in costume.
Oh, you did?
I did, was Elvis at the Napa Valley Marathon. Okay. Yeah.
Did you know Elvis, he appeared at one of the local to me races.
Popular costume.
Peak Steeplechase.
Oh really? Okay.
Elvis was there via Martin.
Short distance ones are not easy. Oh yeah, it was in my costume. He bought it off me.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
For charity. He bought that costume from me. That is the multiple world record holding costume that he's wearing.
That's a very special costume on the course that day. Okay, tell us about your 2013 race plan.
There's also the Fuego Yagua 100K in Nicaragua in February. Yeah, there's going to be a few other guys, Jorge Maravilla, Dave James, I think Anna Frost, maybe a couple of others. Okay. And there's
on Ometepe Island in Nicaragua.
If you say so.
Yeah.
It's an island and it's a volcano or something. That's all I know.
Yeah. A beautiful spot.
It certainly looks it. Yeah. And that's what the race director's shown me with the photos and stuff. Yeah. And then in May I'm doing something called the Jungle Ultra, which is a Marathon de Sable style event in Peru. Okay. So it's a stage race, 7 days, carrying stuff in your backpack, but through the jungle, and I thought I'd tag on doing the Inca Trail just before that because it's close by.
And so that'll be in May?
Yeah, that's 1 month before Western States, yeah.
And then...
Good training week, 150-mile training week before Western States.
Yeah.
Yeah, double my normal week.
And then ramp up to the Grand Slam.
Yeah, or ramp down probably from that point.
Taper
to the Grand Slam. And then pretty much for 3 months I think, run 100 miles, sit around for a few weeks, run 100 miles.
Okay. Okay.
Well, train like whatever I can, but
Yeah.
probably not a whole lot in between.
So it sounds like there are a couple other guys who are going to be Grand Slamming it in hopes of working on that
I hope
record.
so. It makes it more exciting when there's, when there's the race within a race.
Yeah.
Not just who's winning this one, but what's the overall time.
Yeah.
But Nick Clark is a maybe at the moment.
Okay.
He should know fairly soon, I think. And then Carl Meltz has entered Western States, so it's just whether he's going to do the other 3 or not.
Carl, what are you going to do?
On top of the 26 that he's doing that year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then he only needs to do 22 if he can pull.
That
off
would be
the
okay. Yeah.
example.
He would need to win the whole Grand Slam though.
Yeah.
I think that would probably give him the record.
Probably. Let's talk about a more serious question in running. People have been talking about, and what reminds me about this is comrades and doping.
Yeah.
There are a couple.
The male winner, was caught doping.
From last year.
From 2012, this year.
2012, yeah.
And there's been a couple in the past who've been caught doping as well.
So we're seeing conversations about doping happening in ultrarunning right now.
Yeah.
We're seeing it at the periphery of our sport in comrades and a couple examples of European mountain running.
Yeah.
And then we're seeing this huge...
It's happening where the money is, basically.
We're seeing this huge fallout happening in professional road cycling right now. And the talk is, how are we going to keep it out of our sport?
I think the problem is that you can't. And
You
that's
don't
why...
think it's possible?
I don't really think it is, no, because you can always get more... the guys who are working out how to dope have always one step ahead. Cycling showed that. I mean, I think the attitude they had was, you only get caught if you're stupid. It's more of an intelligence test than a doping test. And I think that's always going to be the case. I mean, prohibition doesn't generally work. It doesn't work with alcohol, didn't work with that. It doesn't really work with drugs at all. And I think in sport, if people want to cheat, they're going to cheat. And there'll be ways they can get away with it. Things like EPO, I gather there's only a very short time, like hours, that you can actually be caught with that. So as long as you can stay away from the authorities, then you can get away with it generally. So I think that much as it is cheating, I'm sure there's going to be people who will do it. And when there's the money incentive, more so. But I don't have the exact answer, but I think unless you can have a way to allow it in the sport in some way, it's probably not going to be a level playing field.
There's talk right now about in the cycling.
Not that I do. I don't think you should. It's a good thing. I just want to be clear. I just think that in terms of making a level playing field, there's always going to be people who can get away with cheating, I think.
There's talk in cycling culture right now that then 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it was an acceptable part of the culture, that it was like, you have to conform, you have to do this in order to compete. And now the cycling culture is evolving to, we don't want this as a part of our sport, sort of mainstream cycling opinion.
Yeah, but also they have the team aspect much more so than runners do. So if you have one guy on the team, he wants the other, like Lance was trying to make the other guys on the team do it as well, so they'd be good enough to support him. While running is much more solo, so there's you can have one guy cheat and he doesn't need to get others to do it. So I think the culture's a bit different there.
So you don't think there's any hope for sort of like community policing?
I think there'll be less scope for it to happen just because there's less money, and I think that's always going to be the case. It's never going to be the same money as cycling. There'll be more than there is now, but there's never going to be cycling millions and millions. So that's part of it, is not the incentive. But I just think that the culture is very different in cycling to ultra running. I think most people in ultra running would never dream of cheating in that way. So that'll make it less, but I still think there's going to be some people who will.
Such as the future of sport.
Yeah, and it happens in comrades.
Yeah.
It happens, well, there's supposedly some question marks over the Kenyans at the moment that have been raised.
Kenyan marathoners, right. Yeah.
So if that comes out to be a big scandal, then that would be, again, just a shadow over the whole sport, and also maybe open up people thinking about different things for ultra running. If all these fast guys were doing it anyway, it might make them think twice about whether they want to, and it might make people actually want to do it for ultra running.
Here's what I kind of have to say. Police each other.
Yes.
I wish it would work. I don't know, maybe that's the altruistic person.
That's probably the best way to do it,
out,
but I just think the cheats will be able to get around it, unfortunately.
We're watching you. Just kidding, kind of.
Just have to make sure that you're not a cheat and that you beat other people, whether they cheat or not.
There you go.
Then it's all okay.
Well, let's turn the tide to some lighthearted topics to conclude our interview
Sure.
today. You're a UK import. You've been in
Import, yes.
You've been in our country for a couple of years now. What is something that's really weird about what Americans do? You just still don't understand?
That could actually be quite a long list. Off the top of my head, well, as you say that, we get your Iron Fire compatriot dancing like a monkey behind the camera, so there's one thing.
There's one thing. I will never understand Brian Howell. Me neither.
I don't know. Black Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, I experienced that for the first time this year, because I kind of avoided it before.
Go out shopping?
I went out shopping at midnight, went to Walmart, Target.
So you had your Thanksgiving dinner, laid on the couch for a couple hours, and then went shopping?
Yep.
What'd you see out there?
Well, Bend is a kind of friendlier town, so there were no stabbings, there was no threatening or anything like that. But yeah, the whole idea that you have this big family holiday, and it's all about being nice and happy and family friendly and everything's like for the kids. And then a couple of hours later, people kind of go out with knives and try and jam into a big ruck to get $5 off a DVD. Yeah.
Okay, you don't understand our Black Friday, either do I.
No, I can see why people would want to get the big savings, but there's too much effort. Like when I was there, I'd see a big queue of people and think, that deal's not worth it. I'll get this one instead.
If you could be any ultrarunner, not you, who would you be?
I could be someone else. I'd say being Killian and being able to do the stuff that he does and have the lifestyle of just going around to all the mountain races around the world would be very fun, but I would miss the road stuff.
Okay.
So maybe Mike Wardian, an uninjured Mike Wardian.
An uninjured Mike
Because he does all the races that I love and the philosophy of just going out and competing at everything and really enjoying that. And not thinking, I'm a road runner, so I can't compete there, so I'm not going to turn up because I might not win.
Yeah.
He'll just go anyway.
Go anyway.
Yeah.
Would you rock the long hair?
I don't think I can do long hair.
No.
Yeah, I might get a little bit longer, but that's about it. Maybe a mullet. Stop with the mullet, yeah.
Party in the back?
Yeah.
Business
the mullet with the bad moustache, that's what I'll go for.
Yeah. Amy, watch out.
Yes. She would stop me. That's the thing, I have her as my kind of... my mirror to stop me doing anything like that.
Oh, honey, what are you doing?
Exactly.
If money and time and geographic difficulty to travel to did not exist, dream race, what do you want to do?
I'd love to do stuff in the Himalayas. I've been there once before, and it makes other mountains just look kind of pathetic in comparison.
Like little babies.
Yeah, the little ones. But I did love being there, but the one thing it taught me is that the single hardest factor to overcome in a race is altitude. And when you're up at those really high altitudes, I felt like I was a 90-year-old man. Like running on the flat, running at a 10-minute mile pace on the flat, I was, heart bursting out of my chest. And so that, it's a challenge. But it's more, I think I'd like to go hiking there, maybe not race there, maybe just hike there.
Trekking.
It's more fun. Trekking's more fun.
Like running.
But if you could do that scenery, but without it making my heart explode, that would be probably ideal.
So Matt Carpenter's world record for altitude marathons would not be in danger with you trekking in the Himalayas.
No, I mean, and also it takes so long to adapt to that kind of thing, and even to some degree genetic adaptation, that your parents need to have been Sherpas or whatever living at altitude as well. But yeah, the more I've been to things like that, the more I realise just how impressive Matt Carpenter's records are.
I think that fellow wanted to use our room.
I think you're right.
I feel bad. We'll be done in just a second. Post-race indulgence. What do you do after a big 50 or a 100?
I spend half the race at least thinking about food. And then towards the end of it, I'm not hungry at all. No. Because, you don't want to eat anything. Yeah. That's when your stomach's not feeling good. And even a couple of hours afterwards, I don't want any food. So Amy will always bring my favourite, like chocolate bar or something. Okay. And at the finish line, I just say, give it to me later. It's pointless me having that now. I just have 50 gels. I don't want more sugar.
There's a chance I could barf.
Exactly. I don't know, maybe pizza, just something that's a bit creamier, a bit fattier than I'd normally have. But the benefit of running is that I don't have to hold back too much with my diet. I do allow myself to have a nice variety of kind of naughtier foods as well.
Okay. Naughtier foods.
Yeah.
Do you have any pre-race rituals or things that you have to do, or you think the race will go bad?
Not really, because I'm not superstitious. So
okay.
the one thing I do like is to have the week before the runs go at least reasonably well.
Okay.
But I've learned from experience that even when I've had runs that week before which were horrible and my legs felt like crap, I've had a great race.
Okay.
So I don't let that get me down too much.
Okay.
The only thing is I won't have a big breakfast.
No big breakfast.
You know, I'll have things like Cliff shot blocks and stuff, just little race type food that's easy to digest.
Okay.
Because if I have a proper meal, I feel like I'm just going there with a load of food jumbling around in my stomach. Yeah.
Favorite adventure run you've done this year so far?
Ooh, I had some good ones this year actually.
You ran from fire.
I
drove
almost
away
got
from fire.
burned to death. Yeah. So just being in next to the Oregon Cascades, I tried to do several of the peaks and circumnavigations and stuff like that. And Rob Bean, a runner for Patagonia, I went on a run with him up to the top of Middle Sister. It's about 10,000 feet.
Okay.
And from the top of Middle Sister we could see a smoke plume, and we thought, oh, there's a little controlled burn over there, and didn't really think about it. And then we're running down going, that smoke plume's getting bigger, and we're kind of heading back that way.
Towards it.
And then within about a mile of it, we could see the smoke was quite clearly around where the car was parked at the trailhead. And we were parked at the Pole Creek trailhead, and the name of the fire, which was 26,000 acres, was the Pole Creek fire. That was the centre. Well, it hadn't started when we started running at 8 AM, and it was cold, and it wasn't sunny or lightning or anything like that. So someone must have had a morning campfire, morning cigarette, something like that. But we got back to the car and got into the car. There's a wall of smoke for the only road going back. So foolishly, we tried to go into that smoke just for a few feet, and then I was kind of screaming at Rod, reverse, reverse, because there was a car completely on fire that we could suddenly see.
Oh dear.
Just on the edge of the parking lot, which we couldn't see until we got into that smoke. So then we reversed, went up some little fire road things that, according to our map, were dead ends, and we thought we might have to dump the car. And if we had, and then hike out, which would have been okay, but if we had done that whole area was burnt to a crisp, so the car would have been destroyed. And all the other cars in the parking lot were. So that was probably the biggest adventure. Because it involved one of the most fun runs I've done, then running down a glacier, then running into a fire, then several hours of trying to escape the fire.
So, conclude the story for us. You got out.
We got out, and the car got out.
Okay.
But it's not a four-wheel drive car.
The road did not end.
The road, they seem to just kind of luckily get where we need to be, but we were kind of guessing. We were just trying to take turns that would take us away from the fire, but that we hoped would take us back onto the road.
Okay.
And after about 2 hours of that and battering the car up a little bit, we managed to get away.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but there's a couple scenarios that I fear. I spend a lot of time out in the woods also, running and hiking and backpacking.
Cougars?
You know, I've had my face-to-face encounter with cougars, and
I've never seen one still.
I made it free, and so I had a couple of years of fearing them a lot more than usual, but now I feel like I can conquer the cougar. But one of my, I know, right? One of my fears is getting trapped in the wilderness in a wildfire. So your story's really compelling to me.
Well, it maybe sounds like I'm being a bit silly about it, but I mean, we were running with the wind, and I know that can change, but we were just hoping to get back to the car quickly enough. And as soon as we were in that, we knew we could outrun it along some roads at least. And the fire was always being blown away from us. Otherwise, that would have been a really stupid thing to do if the wind was coming towards us, because the fire can move a lot quicker than we can. But there was definitely more of a risk than we probably realised at the time, particularly when we started going into the smoke. I mean, if we'd have tried to drive along that road, and that was the only main road out, well, the only vaguely not quite paved but flattish road out, then that would have been about 3 or 4 miles of fire. And if we'd have hit one fallen log or something, we'd have been dead. So I'm fully aware that really was dangerous. Scary. But you know, at least we managed to get away and get the car out of there. But I think the worst case would have been we'd have seen the edge of the fire and had to run and hike away from it, and be with the wind saving us from it.
Was that your best adventure run?
It was actually one of the best runs I've ever done, because it is a spectacular area. It's a real shame now that so much of it has been destroyed by the fire, because it'll take maybe 50 years to look like it did before. But that was probably the biggest adventure, and it was a great run before that weird finish to it. But I had a few others around there as well, and things like going around Mount Hood with a big group of really fast people. People like Max and Ellie, for example.
It's like a race around Mount Hood.
It wasn't really a race, but when you've got that many fast people, you're kind of thinking, wow, if we made this into a race, Ivan Farr would be covering this. That was my exact thought. Exactly, yeah. A live tweet, Max is just ahead of Ellie now.
Max has stopped to dip his bottle in the water, and Ellie jumped ahead.
Max took a photo, what's going on?
Max stopped and took a photo. That's funny. Do you have any interest in the whole like adventure run, FKT stuff that's going on?
Not really. I mean, I'd rather just do it for fun than to go for an FKT. To me, there's a race and then there's a fun run, and an FKT is somewhere in between, but it's not really something that massively interests me.
If you're out in like a wild place doing a run, you want to be able to...
I'd rather just enjoy it and take photos than think of it as a race, but without it actually being a race.
Got it.
Well, I was saying that I would like to do the rim to rim to rim in the Grand Canyon, but not necessarily as a time trial, more just to fit it into one day, be able to stop, take photos and enjoy it all. Really.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've done some wacky stuff with your running over the years. You have a very interesting story in the way you started with running. You essentially picked a... hi.
What's going on? I went to use the computer.
Oh, do you mind if we use this room for just a couple more minutes?
Okay.
Yeah,
Just be a minute.
we'll be almost done. Oops, sorry. You basically started your running career with the Marathon des Sables.
Yeah.
That's pretty wacky.
That was the first thing I entered, at least. I had a couple of races before that to prepare. Yeah.
You race in costume.
Yep. There's a good reason for that, though.
Yeah.
London Marathon, the first year that I got into it through the lottery, they offered £1,000 for the first Elvis. And I thought, well, I'm just doing this as a training run, so for the price of buying a costume, no one serious is going to do this. So I'll probably win £1,000, and that's what happened. And then there were a load of other people who did Batman and a load of other ones. The Batman did, I think, a 5.5-hour time. And so I thought, superhero record, 5.5 hours. I can get another world record if I just turn up to another race. So it kind of started like that.
Okay. Are there any other wacky skeletons in your closet?
Running related? I don't think so. I mean, I've done...
How about life related?
I'm sure they probably are, but how long do we have?
Well, that man wants to use a computer, so...
But you know, I've done 4 different costumes in races. There's the Elvis, Spider-Man, Santa once, and Maximus from Gladiator.
Oh.
And I did that one in Rome as well, which is kind of
how
fun.
appropriate.
Yeah.
Huh.
Kind of weird that running through the streets with a plastic sword and shaking it at people. And Italians do not get that. They just think you're a weirdo. More so than other people. But someone like the London Marathon, half the people are in costume.
Okay.
So it's a normal, accepted thing. It's almost, if you say to someone, I'm running the London Marathon, the first 2 questions will be, who are you running for, as in which charity, and what are you dressed as?
Okay.
Rather than, oh, how fast are you going? And they don't even realise it's a race, I think, for most people. But in Italy, it's a serious race.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't wear your gladiator costume and don't wield swords.
And some people liked it, but in London you get the cheering, it's like, yeah, ooh, that's great. In Italy there's kind of the cheering for everyone else, and then they stop and go, what are you doing? Is he in the race?
Thanks for sitting down to chat
It's been fun.
with us this evening. And good luck out there in the tempest this weekend.
Yeah, I'm hoping it'll be okay. It looks like the course might change, but we'll see what happens in the next couple of days anyway.
I think you might have to go back to your hotel room and start building extra lugs on whatever shoes you're going to wear.
It definitely needs some lugs for the pure mud bath type of course. Yeah.
So I'm expecting that photos that come out of this weekend, instead of like the Mike Wolf blood photo from last year.
It's going to be the mud photo,
It's going to be like mud.
I think you're going to have to hose down the winner to find out who it is.
Who is under the
Is that a man or a woman?
Woman! Oh, that's good. I like it. Well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
And thanks for sitting down to chat with us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
And we'll see you on the races.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Thank you.